Hi, I'm Shelby Williams, Plano City Council, Place 5. And before I get to tonight's Plano City Council recap, you may notice a little something different about me. Well, in 1 week, on Tuesday, December 17th, we're going to have our last City Council meeting of the year. So if we can raise $1,500 across 4 charities that I'll name tomorrow, I will wear this hat on the dais at this year's last City Council meeting. So we'll get the ball rolling right now. Now, only you can donate through the links that I send, or you can just screenshot and PDF me receipts that you've done, but it has to be from the moment this video is published. You can't send me a receipt from a donation you made last week. So for tonight's recap, we started in the preliminary open meeting, and we discussed the way we do evaluations of the 3 appointments that the City Council makes. There's the city manager, the city attorney, and the district judge. Now, with the city manager and the city attorney, we interact with them sometimes daily, so we get a heavy amount of exposure to them and their performance. However, we have almost no interaction with the the municipal judge, which is proper because of the separation of powers and checks and balances and everything. So we discussed how we can get greater exposure to what the judge is doing in the district court or in the municipal court, and make sure we have a better understanding of how the court functions and everything that goes on there. Next, we move to a presentation and a discussion on the use of eminent domain and specifically the acquisition process. Now, in tonight's presentation, we're talking specifically about roadways and street improvements. These are mainly easements along certain intersections, particularly those with high accident volumes. And we often need to acquire slivers of land from the property owners where we need to make these street improvements. So there are a lot of these to be done all at once. So we have the option of either providing for to adopt action all at once for each parcel of land simultaneously, or to tackle them one at a time. So the council decided to prepare action to do them all simultaneously. However, we were adamant that each property owner needed to be afforded every fair chance to go through negotiations for the portion of their property which would need to be taken in order to enact those street improvements. Then we moved on to our regular meeting. We had 3 great presentations. The first was short but very sweet. The Friends of the Plano Public Library, which have been operating since the 60s, presented a $127,000 check to the City of Plano Library Department. And that money goes to improve our library services and augment the provisioning of books and other things that we offer at the libraries, which are such important community centers in our city. Next, the Sons of the American Revolution presented several community service awards for our first responders. First was to firefighter Sonny Weed, who was named Firefighter of the Year. Second, to EMS Patrick Dan, who was Paramedic of the Year, as well as Michelle Keaton, who was 911 Operator of the Year, and Assistant Chief of Police Brad Fortune presented Jacob Evans with Officer of the Year for 2018. In addition, Fire Chief Sam Greif accepted an award for Plano for staging flag retirements every year. On top of which, I'm very proud to say, coming in the near future, Plano is going to have flag retirement drop boxes at many of our fire stations. A very obvious way that citizens can come retire their flags properly, drop them off so that they will be retired properly. My thanks to Chief Greif and Deputy City Manager Greg Rushin for making that happen. Next, we had a presentation by the Texas chapter of the American Planning Association to the City of Plano Planning Department. Planning Director Christina Day accepted 4 awards for Envision Oak Point, the Backyard Cottage Regulations, Historic Preservation, and Planning Execution. So congratulations to the City of Plano Planning Department and Director Christina Day. We then moved on to a comment of public interest before we had our items for individual consideration. The Plano Masonic Lodge thanked Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Riccardelli and Council Member Rick Grady, as well as the council and the city staff for the commendation they received on Friday for their 125th anniversary. That is an incredible milestone, so congratulations to the Plano Masonic Lodge. And then we moved into our items for individual consideration. First was the replacement of Neighborhood Empowerment Zone number 1, which is the downtown Plano area. Considered in this was an expansion of the territory, a slight expansion, taking it west to 75 and a little bit here and there north, east, and south, just slight extensions of the current covered area, but also a restriction on the exemption. So the Neighborhood Empowerment Zone, I think I said investment a moment ago, it's a Neighborhood Empowerment Zone. What it does is it exempts from certain fees any improvements that are made within the Neighborhood Empowerment Zone. So building inspection fees, etc. It's meant to provide a greater incentive for improvements for property owners to put that money into improving their areas, because of course downtown Plano is our most historic and oldest district in the city, and we want to make sure that that is the historical character of that area is maintained while the area is revitalized. Now, one commercial property owner did speak. One of the changes we made is to no longer allow exemption for development and redevelopment, but only for improvements on existing properties and existing developments. A commercial developer who owns 2 acres of land in the Neighborhood Empowerment Zone did ask us to table and reconsider that restriction to only improvements. But upon discussion with Peter Brastert, we were told that case-by-case considerations can be made for development or redevelopment if it makes sense for the area. So the council passed the revision in the new Neighborhood Empowerment Zone ordinance 7-0. We were one council member short tonight. Council member Casey Prince was unable to attend. Next, we moved to a public improvement district revision as well, along the same vein in the downtown Plano area. However, it was expanding the geography, but in different ways than in the Neighborhood Empowerment Zone. Now, a PID, Public Improvement District, is meant to finance, essentially, and incentivize improvements to a specifically defined area that benefit all property owners in the area, not to the benefit of any specific property owners, to attract retail shoppers, for instance, and better the entire area. Now, the way this is done is financed through an additional property tax assessment within the PID, within the Public Improvement District. In this case, 15 cents additional per $100 of valuation. So that in that manner, the assessments pay back the city, and it's tied to the property itself, not to a specific property owner who may take out a lease or invest in development or improvement to the property. So the benefits, because they are realized over time, years or even decades, they're tied to the property to be repaid, because whomever owns the property at any given point in time are the ones who are going to be benefiting over the long term. And so that item also passed 7-0. It is worth noting that the city of Plano chips in $50,000 into the PID funding every year, kind of get the ball rolling. Next, we considered we reviewed and then accepted the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, CAPER as an acronym. Yeah, I know. And this was specifically for Plano's use of federal funding for housing. This is a requirement in order to get HUD funding every year for the city to use. So Plano spends about $1.8 million annually of federal funds on housing within the city. These go toward things like first-time home buyer assistance, renovations to make housing affordable and acceptable, bringing older, more run-down properties up to better shape so they are more inhabitable. And the assistance program that Plano runs assisted 137 people in the past year to remain what they call stably housed, which means they didn't get into an unstable situation or into homelessness. We also helped 137 youth through the Boys and Girls Clubs of Collin County, so well done. These federal funds are augmented by the city's funds that are given through the Buffington Community Service Grants every year. We did fall short of many of our goals this year in monetary terms because what we're dealing with is housing, and the market has changed a fair bit. The cost of construction and labor has risen in the past 12 months over what was anticipated 12 months ago. And so while we are we're pretty much going to hit our, I think it was the renovation target, we're going to fall short in other areas just because our dollars aren't going as far. It is notable, we will count our homeless population again, as we do every year, on January 23rd. And this report was approved by the council 7-0. The last item we considered was the first reading of an ordinance to grant Encore Electric a franchise, a 20-year franchise, to use our public ways and property to provide electric services. The second reading of this ordinance will be on January 13th, and the council will take a vote at some point thereafter. So that's all. I want to remind you, next Tuesday, we will have the final council meeting of the year. And if we raise $1,500 across the 4 charities that I'll name, I'll wear this hat on the dais. So I thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you for being part of this magnificent city. I'm Shelby Williams, Plano City Council, Place 5. Good night.